on the Middleman podcast, I have with me just a guy that absolutely blew me away when I first had a session with him. He's like a numerologist, but he really isn't. How he plays with numbers and the matrix is, I've never experienced anything like it before or since. So welcome, Bobby F. Paraha. That is whose for surname I can never get quite correct. He's from Canada. And and a long-term friend. Welcome, Bobby, to the show. How are you today?
Good, brother. How are you, man?
Yep, I'm great. Thank you for asking. So I was watching a little video before we recorded this where you're doing your numerology alumni? You're doing all your numerology stuff. So tell us a bit, how did you get into numerology?
I don't know. It's a weird question because the answer is weird because I remember being a kid and it was like 2006 and 2007. It was a rush around after high school, maybe a little bit earlier than that, like 2001, to grade 11 and grade 12, and I found out my life path, and it was really cool because I was like, oh, cool, numerology is, your birthday has a thing about you. And then I kind of committed it to this spiritual art the same way I thought tarot and astrology, and that was about it. And then around 2015, I had become an entrepreneur, and we were doing direct sales. We were selling our products. And then about 6 months in, I'm kind of dragging my feet, not getting the results that I wanted. And then my friend's like, this is the craziest newest thing. You got to go get your a middle initial. You're going to get a letter on your name. It's going to be nuts. And I'm like, all right. So then I went to go and to see this person, and they're like, numerology. I'm like, save it. I'm a life path 11. I know this. But then there was a new dimension for me where numerology was uncovered as the second language that we have underneath what we're saying, and the words that we use now hold a magnetic value. No wonder this letter represented so much. And I'm like, I was still skeptical to go through it. I found my own way through it, but as you say, it's like numerologist but not. But yeah. I'm feeling like it's more like a bringer of truth to the second language, because it permeates through all this stuff, and it's of such crazy clarity. But it came out of left field. I wasn't expecting to have a spiritual experience building my direct sales network marketing business. And here I'm trying to stay focused, right? Like, no.
Yeah, no, I've only just noticed, actually, you've got another letter in the middle there. You've got to be there now.
Well, yeah, I was Bobby F. Perihar because the initial options were F, X, H, Q, Z. And I'm like, this doesn't make any sense. And my middle name was Francisco. So I was like, okay. So then I put on Bobby F. Perihar. And then since then, a couple of years later, I was going to be changing my name legally. And so when I changed my name legally, it was at the last minute. I was looking at it and I was calculating it, and it needed a shift that was going to help me move up one space, which was like adding an extra S to Francisco. But then 6 months previously, my grandfather's middle name, he had just passed away. So I was kind of like not really wanting to change that name. And then I did some calculations, and I recognized that if I added my name Bobby to my legal name, so my legal name Balwant, if I added another middle name Bobby, it would even out. And I really liked the way that it all looked. And then lo and behold, when I went down to Bobby BF Perihar, it actually still held a vibration, but it's like Lord of the Rings. Gandalf would be turning into Gandalf the White. And I was like, whoa, cool. I was so neat, because when I used to hang out with you, I was Bobby F. Perihar. Yeah. And now I'm Bobby BF Perihar, and it holds something a little bit different. So yeah, no, I did change my name legally now.
What's interesting around that is, for the way I see the world, the way I see the matrix. So Mother Earth's gone into 5D, which is a much higher vibration, right? And that's also means all the veils are thinner between different dimensions and different realms. And one of the realms that's coming really close, that's working with us really close right now, is the B realm. So you've that's happened, and then you put the B in your middle name. I've changed it. I mean, I've not changed my name. Just my podcast name is RoyB, so there's the B there. But that's the initial of my surname. But the fact that all this B energy is around, which is all about the golden octave, because honey's an eternal thing that can, it's the only food that never spoils, and it's very healing as well. But yeah, and there's so many other people I'm talking to and going, I'm fascinated with bees right now. I'm like, yeah, there's a reason for that. You might not know yet, but you will. So yeah, it's fascinating. And the Gandalf the White thing, well, I feel I've gone into the Gandalf the White
You have
energy as well, definitely. because
But you know, even 2023 is a 7 energy, which allows us being, and it's the year where we just need to be. It's not about doing so much;
yeah,
it's allowing. So just to further in on that, so cool.
yeah, no, absolutely. And the other thing I noticed as well is like because Sally came into your life, and it's almost like you got that BFF in your middle name.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
there's that element to it again. BF. I know you're married now, but it's
Well,
got
when
that
I met
energy
her, it
to
was
it, that partnership energy.
yeah, because the partnership energy of Bobby F. Perihar was to bring in relationship. It wasn't actually to bring in success or wealth or monetary. I didn't do that. Everyone else was doing that. And then I was like, well, I want to find the love of my life. And so I put myself into Bobby F. Perihar, and it led me down the path to, of course, meeting you. And it was so crazy to see this whole thing unfold. But I had a lot of inner work to do before I was ready for that chapter of my life. And then when Sally and I met, she was changing her name legally to be married to me. And I was like, this is it. I'm going to change my name legally as well. My marriage certificate to be good. And so it inspired the change or the move over into the new vibe that I was supposed to go into. But it is different than trying to get married or find my relationship. Now it's like in the king and the queen seat with my Sally together, right? So interesting, difference.
Yeah, yeah, no, it's amazing how we see the Matrix in very different ways.
Yeah.
And yeah, you're certainly creating a reality. You're still creating because like all the times this is probably what the fourth, fifth, maybe even sixth time we've done a Zoom together. And each time we do it, I notice that your room in the background is becoming more expansive, more colorful, more new things in it. And it's basically watching your growth and watching what's behind you, because it's massively different from the first time we did it. You was just on a couch and I think you're probably in a completely different house.
I think so. Yeah, yeah. Things have been. I mean, it's always been about creating this portal, and this is now in the Feng Shui part of the Bagua map of our house in the meditation space. So this is the most holiest part of our home, and yeah, it's where we have like the couch, and people come in to do their work here with us. And yeah, no, I'm blessed that I was thinking about that when I was sitting down. I'm like, he's gonna say something about my room. He always says something about my room. And yeah, man, I love you,
Yeah,
bro.
and the door to your God, I can never remember which way Zoom is doing it, but the door to my right, that one. Well, that was black the last time we was on, and I think it had a black curtain. Now you've got this
it was a
beautiful
black
white door
with a glass that has broken. So underneath it, there was a broken window that you could hear everything from upstairs. I'm like, no, I can't do that. And we were going to replace to make sure that I could get at least a little bit of containment. But yeah, it works really well, right?
Yeah, and you've got all this greenery around you as well.
Thanks.
And interestingly enough, like of all the superheroes you could choose, it's like Spider-Man and Iron Man. Well, Spider-Man is all about creating your dreams. That's what the spider medicine is, creating the dreams. And then Iron Man, well, that's the one about taking those dreams, but building them in this life because he hasn't got any superpowers. He's just wealthy and can create what he wants, how he wants it, because he's got that financial backing.
Yeah.
And of all the two things you can choose, like and here I'm wearing Doctor Strange because I'm in my portal wizard energy at the moment. Yeah, there's never a coincidence. Does not exist.
I want to show you. Can I show you the other side?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, so this one you can't really see it because obviously I have my screen turned this way, but this is this side.
The shadow work. So Batman's always about going within.
Batman and Superman up top. There's a map. I got Bob Marley and Tupac, and then the Beatles here, and then so then there's pictures of us, and then sticky notes and things, affirmations, and then I've got a poster of the universe here. So it's like a canvas that shows a very faded now, but it's like a galaxy. So this side. So sometimes I sit here and I work on this area, and then even up top, like more superheroes, the Justice League. So my goal is to really make a beautiful sort of artistic space as it unfolds everywhere.
Yeah, yeah.
But I told Sally that as soon as this tree hits the ceiling, that we're gonna have to move, get a bigger house. So it's like almost there.
Oh, I remember. Yeah, I think we briefly. I remember. I think we messaged back and forth, and I remember watching a video. One of you alumni, and you was talking about the thing in the ceiling, saying you'd have to Yeah, I remember that now. Yeah. Well, it'll soon get there. It'll soon get there. And
As
I
soon as
love
I
it.
said that, it stopped going up and it started moving this way. And Sally's like, "Oh, it hurt you. It doesn't want to go now."
It's just going, yeah, they're not ready to move yet. There's a bit of forward momentum, and then it'll go up.
Yeah, yeah.
It'll
It's tough right now because the
create
kids'
like the
school is
flash
like
time.
the kids' school is right next there. And like for me, this was my freaking dream was to be a dad. I wanted kids, I wanted the childhood experience. And then when I got it, I didn't realize how much of it I was going to be involved in. And then how much my business was going to end up being like, oh, well, you've already done that. And I was like, okay, well, it ended up taking such a frequency shift that says this is my future as a dad to be there for my children. I need to figure this out. I got to make sure that I'm with them because my little Paquito, Francisco, my son, he's like 9 months old. And then Robbie's like 4 years old. And then we got Talis, Stanley, and Jen. So it's 5 little kids. And like, they need this leadership present. So for me, it's a beautiful, I guess, like dichotomy or challenge or twist up to think, oh my God, I really want to be present for this brand and do these shows and, do all this stuff online. And at the same time, I'm like, I would never forgive myself if I had to prioritize that versus making their lunches and being there for them to go to school and, being the conscious space. So it's like having your hands tied, right? Because
Yeah.
we obviously have the spirit work, but then I'm like, well, if those are the legacy of my existence, I think that might be the precedent that needs to take place. I've gotten to the point where it's like the money, the business, the resource can do what it needs to do. We're gonna hustle, but I don't get this time back with my children.
Yeah.
So huge opportunity there.
Yeah.
That was a big wake up call for the last 2 years.
Yeah, and look, and from my experience, because my son's 17, he was going to be 18 in about 9 weeks or something like that. So, the biggest thing I ever gave him was time, was my time. Just this one-on-one time. I know it's a bit more challenging when you got 5 and I just had him. It was easy to do the one-on-one time, but that's all he ever wanted. And most of my best memories are just from doing the randomest little things and the silly little things. And because interesting enough, this is going to be episode 9. Well, my son Joel, he's going to be episode 10. And we actually filmed that the other day. And he came up with one of these random things. He exaggerated. He said he nearly burnt the house down, and that was not the case. but the thing is that of all the memories he could have thought of, it was something like that where we was actually messing around with Hot Wheels cars at the time, and had one of these like a bomb shaped cap exploder, and I just threw it on, and it popped on the carpet, and it burnt the carpet. But and it's like. But we'd done things like gone to the zoo or a weekend away at Airlie Beach and all these amazing other things. And this random of moments is the one that he talks about on the show.
So you threw a bottle cap exploder on the carpet?
So what it is, it looks like a bomb, like it's actually a bomb shape, and it's designed
but it's got the little top end, has a little paper. You put it on there, and then when you hit it, the thing goes pump.
Yeah, yeah. So it's one of these. One of these little toys you can buy. It's like, an alternative to the cap guns.
Yeah.
And because it hit the carpet, like the instant flash of the heat burnt a little hole in this little carpet that we was playing on. So, yeah.
You get in trouble in my house, man.
Don't well, it was my house, so I didn't care. And, it was this tiny little guy, I didn't care.
That's so fun.
But it's interesting that the biggest thing that I was unprepared for as a parent is when he decided to just do his own life. Because it was like 1 minute I was seeing him all the time, and the next minute, no, I've got a girlfriend, I've got a job, I'll see you later. No warning. Or you get this sense that it's coming, but then it happens, and you're like, what just happened? Both of our worlds literally changed overnight. The day he got that job, it changed overnight.
Wow.
And it's just like, and he's assimilating far easier than I am.
Oh, sure.
And I've got all this extra time that I had no plans what to do with.
Right. Well, you got to do a podcast.
And even that, but then, the podcast has definitely taken up that. And the beautiful thing I love about the podcast, I put the stats up for it the other day. I'm part of a Facebook group. My mentor, his podcast is called The Technician. It's usually it's always in the top 100 of Australia. So a good mentor for podcasting. And in the 4 weeks I've been doing this podcast, it's had 100 and I looked this morning, there's been 136 downloads. Now, this is just all the audio. 136 downloads, 4 continents, 11 cities. What the episode with the most downloads has had 50 downloads. And that's in just under, well, probably 4 weeks now it's been running since I recorded the first episode.
Wow.
Yeah, because I've just took action and I've just gone, no, I'm doing this.
Way to go, man.
And yeah. So
I think the stage is set for this conversation. You know you've got this power. You have to do this. This is so good.
Yeah, well, it's all about getting. So for me, growing up with all my abilities, and it's quite common for everyone that has especially psychic mediums, where you can see things and feel things that others can't. You tend to get the, oh, you're just making it up. We don't believe you. So your voice, you don't get heard. And the whole reason for doing this podcast, or not the whole reason, but a big chunk of doing this podcast was so others could be heard. So others could talk about their spiritual abilities. And I'm going to get as many people on with different ways of looking at the world as possible. So it was a no-brainer to invite you for the numerology stuff, because you just do it very completely different to anybody that I've ever known. And it's, to me, I said to you, I says, this isn't numerology. I don't know what it is that you're doing. Because the very first time with our session, when you gave me my letters, I could see your eyes, and the way your eyes were moving, I'm like, this guy's channeling. And it's as though you already knew the numbers. You already knew it. Without any training, you would still be able to do what you were doing that day.
Yeah.
And you gave me F, X, and O. Right. So I think it took me a day to assimilate F. It took me 3 months to assimilate X, and then O was in my name for probably a couple of years, and then I assimilated that, which is why, because once I assimilate something, I feel it doesn't need to be there anymore, which is why I don't have that letter in my name anymore, because I assimilated the energy of it. But that's how powerful it was. It took me, I think, 2 to 3 years to assimilate the O. And it's just, and since I assimilated it, everything just, the gifts just expanded even more. And so I'm always eternally grateful for the session that we had together.
Dude, I mean, well, because we don't know, this is new for the podcast. The night I met with you, I met Sally that night.
So that was our sex. So we met via Kangan.
Yeah.
And then I came for a session with you. And then during that, you says, oh, I think I need to have a session, because you saw all my numbers and
of course
everything like that. And I still remember some of that, because like when you do numerology, and correct me if I've misremembered this, but when you do it like 1 to 9 and then you put all the numbers beneath, that's right, you put all the letters between, and you just go 1 to 9, you put letters in between. The fact that my name, RoY, comes under 6 and 7, and my birthday's the 6 and the 7 as well, you found that quite unusual, that names aren't often linked in with the actual birthday in regards to numbers, how they sit under the 1 to 9 thing. And because you saw that, he says, I feel I need to have a session with you. And then this was when, you was just on your sofa that day. And I'll let you tell this, because you always tell it much better than I would, of that session we had where,
That was a great, profound time, man. Honestly, like, you're talking about being grateful for me. I mean, like, these are catalytic experiences. And, I feel like most of my most treasured experiences have been when I prepare someone for something and then they do something for me. We have this leapfrog experience. And I'm blessed. I mean, I know fatherhood, I know marriage. These are childhood dreams of mine. I know my soulmate energy, and it's so funny because I remember when we were doing our session, and I felt like sand got in my face, or I had dirt in my face, and you're like, no, that's like shards coming out of your face, for like you're gonna feel that for the next little while as it feels like it's coming out. And I literally peeled it out. I could literally peel out, like, feeling that I had something material coming out of my space. You said you've been struck, you're blind to love, and you couldn't see it, and you've been sort of like a bad experience with it, and in this space you're going to clear all that energy. And in that night I meet Sally for the very first time, and I'm like, this is unreal. There was a few really cool prompters that unfolded, but I appreciated, because I get to see numerology, I get the inside track, and being like, hey, this person's got a real ability. Or like you say, oh, they're just making it up, and da da da. And it's not just that you're going to make it up, but if I'm a psychic person, I want to kind of know am I dealing with someone who's in my space, or is it someone who's going to be like, oh, you like this, and then think that they're just agreeing with me because it's my environment, right? Which is a bad example because obviously you did that, but you could really read into it with me, and it was profound even back then, that space, and it was just so cool to appreciate, man. You're like a version of like Professor X and also Wolverine, and like, you know, like a combination of it, like a psychic badass. And yeah, it's important is you're really humble too. And I remember one of our experiences, you were talking to me about you know, parenting again. And I really admire you, the way that you're cool enough to throw shit on your carpet, be there with your kid. You were teasing him last time, and then he showed you the value of your parenting when he's like, you know, he told you not to do that. And it was this wake up call for you, this experience. And I was like, wow, you know, I really learned a lot from the value of what you are. And I know Sally loves you too. You know, really appreciate you so much, man. Like, you're gonna do so many cool, important things. And I mean, for me to appreciate just the numbers, you know, I think that the second language, we get a chance to either pick up the call or, you know, not. Just like the Matrix, you get to either own it and just be weird and be in your expression of you. You can be a spiritualist, and in your case, you call I call you my spirit walker. That's what I feel like you are. You're a walker in spirit for me, a mentor and a guide. You know, or you can just go get a job, you know, and do the thing and be normal, right? I
Yeah.
think it's more fun like this.
Yeah,
You're
we've
popular
all
on
got our own
Spotify.
path. We've all got our own path. I mean, look, the reason I chose the middleman as the name because I'm the middleman between people's mind, body, and soul, and so
Yeah.
that does link in with the spirit walker. You know, that's how I feel. Like I'm never switched off. I'm always tuned in, so they can drop information in the moment. You know, and while you was talking about the stories and the experiences we've had together, my whole body was just tingling and the reminder of, and I love that you remembered the story about when my son was 4 and he pulled me up for teasing him. So that, yeah. And that turned me into a conscious parent that day to go, okay, I
Good.
need to teach this kid differently because he's holding me accountable at 4, you know, or 5, I think he was, or 4, no, I think it was 4. Yeah. Holding me accountable at 4. That's courage. And he
You
still
look
does.
younger. Yeah, you look more like a kid now. You're grown younger, hey?
Yeah, well, it's interesting when you really, so this is something for the listeners. When you truly own who you are, you get younger because you're no longer resisting and worrying about what other people think. So you're no longer carrying that kind of energy.
Mm.
And, you know, because the thing is, the one bit I shied away from was the term psychic medium because I felt my purpose was bigger than that. But it's actually a big part of me to have those abilities, to have that ability to know when spirits around. And I get, you know, I actually get physical sensations when they're around, which is, it fascinates me.
Me
And,
too.
and
Even right now, I can feel it right here, and I can feel it right here. And there's this like this tinge of like awareness that just comes right through here as you said that. And I'm like, it's like you're wearing a thing that like allows you to communicate, like a radio device. Is
oh, yeah,
like
yeah.
that. Feels like that.
Yeah, yeah. Well, yeah, it was interesting because we get all these pointers throughout life of who we are, and I've even before I knew who Merlin was, I was fascinated with that energy, and then when I found out who it was, it kind of just started the journey.
Mm.
But you know, when I first moved to the Gold Coast, I ended up in a telesales job, so I had the mic on for 8 hours a day. You know, all these little things when you look back and you just chuckle at yourself, going, "Yeah, okay, that was spirit talking to me without me, you know, hiding stuff right under your nose."
Yeah,
Yeah, it's absolutely fascinating.
that's awesome.
So once you got into, who was your mentor then in regards to the letters and numbers?
Well, I mean, we had an event where were shown this, and then I did a lot of self study after that. I read a lot of different books, and I basically started to do this introspection. I was always Googling things, and I was always trying to read stuff, and I could anything I could get my hands on, and I picked a little bit from here, and then I kind of tested it, and I did a lot of my own experimentation, which is why I was on the skeptical path. Because as soon as I found someone's work, I'm like, they're saying something different. There's another difference. Someone's talking about a diamond or a grid, and there's all these different shapes, and I'm looking at them, and every time I find someone else's, I'm studying it, and I'm like, interesting. How come it's never is the same? And people are like, what do you do? And I'm like, I've never seen that. I've had to build mine as well. You know, the
Hmm.
most that I can say that it's been unified was Pythagoras numerology. But yeah, it's been really strange to sort of find the thread in what an education feels, is I've sort of felt my way into it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that to me suggests that that's a master relearning his craft, because you're coming across these people, these books, these events, and going, right, I need to re-assimilate that. And so your craft grows. And because we're always, it's not very often we learn something new. We're always just remembering usually stuff that we've had previous lives. Yeah, there's obviously there is going to be new things, but when it just feels so easy and effortless, because you're like me, the numerology you do is just effortless to you.
Mm.
You know, yeah, but the good thing as well is you put the work in as well. You don't rest on your laurels. You just this stuff I can do easy, but I want to evolve, and that's where it takes the work to do the practice, to be open to growing and learning. And you know, you said I was humble, absolutely likewise. It takes that humility to never think you're the best at what you do.
Mm-hmm.
And that creates the paradox that if you constantly grow like that, you become one of the top in your field, because you never accept where you are. You're always open to learning from, basically you're aware of that the master's the student and the student's the master sometimes.
Yeah.
And that
It's
flow.
actually it was a pretty good switch, because before I was caught in the race of wanting to be in the top 10 and making sure I'm in the top of my field. And then after I look at my son in the face and I see his eyes like mine, and I realize, oh my God, I have my world in my palm. So do I need to bring everything down, or did I find my happy medium? Because you said, oh, don't rest on my laurels. I'm like, I've been saying that to myself this year, saying, hey, the reason why I'm going through the challenge of 2022 is because I rested on my laurels and I went into parent mode. And then I look back and I'm like, well, there's my real value. I've been waiting for this my whole life. I'm not going to just drench it now and water it all down, and say, oh, it's not good enough. Like that's the old program that doesn't allow you the rest that you need. We're always going to be a student. And with that, it was unlocked, because I was like, okay, I always want to learn more. And even right now, it's heavily into human design. So the work that I do with Sally, you got to have her on the show, man. Like you got to listen to this. She's got something unbelievable, and she's my greatest mentor right now. Like everything and anything in between, from parenting to self-discovery. The chart that she be able to read is like me finding fire again through numerology. The same thing that she's been doing, and it's nice to have that that we're building her at the same time, because with me building a brand on my own, her doing numerology doesn't make sense. But when she found HD, it was like a complement between our brands and allowing us to do sessions together. It was like a really cool dynamic where I can really look at the numbers while I'm watching her, listening to what she says about this person, and then offering my insight. And then she comes in and sort of compliments me. So it's been really cool to have that. And for me, a dream come true, because she's had a lot of kids, and she's a very ambitious woman. And, you can get lost in a drown of children. I'm like, whoa. You're like, yeah, it's hard to find the time. I'm like, it's not hard. They don't
time's an illusion, man.
Yeah, well, they don't find it hard to find the time. I mean, I find it hard to find the time for myself, but they don't find it hard to find me. They always got me. I'm always present for them. It's the other way around for us, right? So it's like it's a gift. But at the same time, I really wanted it. Sally was like, I would have been happy with 2 kids. She got 5 now. So they're all blessings for her, but she's got this pocket that says, I really want to build this. So our gear and focus is really, helping her to inspire that. Speaking of mentorship, because it's just been really cool. But
it's an adventure for you. It's an adventure, because get this right. So they just drew my eyes to that light blue carpet on the floor there, right? And then because of the shape of your seat, it looks like a cap. And there's only one cap I know to exist like that in my life, and it's the one that my son used to wear, which was of the cartoon Adventure Time. So then it brings me to, you're talking about your kids and your family and everything. That's why it's an adventure.
Yeah, it's fun though. It's crazy. But I mean, it would be a strange world if it was just me. And I don't know. I guess you gotta for those of you guys who are like confident that you're gonna work on law of attraction, you're gonna make it happen, you're gonna manifest what you want. The biggest thing I would say to anyone is, be careful what you wish for and grow into the container of what that means. Otherwise, you'll watch your enjoyment come to you, and then I'll feel like I'm failing, or I'll feel like I can't do it, or like I'm not enough. And then it's like, why would you do that to yourself in the moment of your glory when you've been dreaming about it since a kid?
Yeah.
And you willed it into reality. enjoy an experience, enjoy that space. Because yeah, as you were saying, your kid's gonna be 17 and wants to do other
Oh,
things.
and it happens
Yeah,
like that. Like, you
my
know,
little guy
it
Stanley
was
is like
4 pulling me up for
as well.
teasing him, and then he was 17 leaving me alone. I'm like, what happened?
Wow.
What happened? What did I miss? And you don't get that time back. But if you stay present with your kids, what you do get when you spend time with them, they remind you of moments that you forget. Or
Truth.
and then you can relive those moments. Go, oh yeah, God, I forgot about that. And then you have
Yeah.
this beautiful adult relationship full of beautiful memories that only then grows because your time with them is fleeting. They're doing their own life, and you're really proud of them because they're
Cool.
doing their own life and they don't need as much guidance.
Mhm.
And all you did was give them time, and then they give you that time back tenfold, 20-fold, got 1,000-fold.
Oh, so cool.
Um, and interestingly enough, because there was something we was talking about just before we started the show, was the book, The Way of the Superior Man by
Yeah.
David Dida. And he's reading that now.
Cool.
So, because I want him to be ahead of the curve. You know, it's like, mate, you're 17, read this. Because I was immature in relationships, and I want to teach him to be better than I was.
Okay.
And that's actually the role of the father, to teach them to not make your mistakes. Let them make their own. They'll have their own to make, but give them the wisdom of the ones you made.
Right. I think the book is right here or right here, but I'm gonna
Mm,
have to pull it out now. The Way of the Superior
yeah,
Man. I have it. I have a copy,
yeah, and
but
it's
I
a
haven't
great
opened
read.
it.
It's actually easy to read because it's all broken down in very little chapters. And
Cool.
I'll tell you something. I guarantee this now. It'll greatly enhance your relationship with Sally. It will step
Looking
that
forward
up
to
to a
it.
whole new level.
Mm.
Just yeah, it's just incredible. So for those that haven't read it, and for the guys out there, and it's handy for women as well, because I've got a couple of female friends that have read it, and they've gone, yeah, I've got so much insight from reading it from the female perspective.
Cool.
So there's something I'd like to ask you actually. What's the numerology on the middleman?
Okay, let's do it. So when I take a look, I'll maybe just put it onto my
So this,
calculator.
so for those who are watching and for those who are listening, this is numerology tenfold, 10x. This is how you do it.
Okay, so is it just the Middleman or the Middleman
I,
Show, the Middleman
I
Podcast,
feel it's RoyB The Middleman. I feel that's what needs, because that's how it's always promoted.
and then so it's RoyB The
The
Middleman.
middleman, yeah.
Cool. I love it. I mean, to be fair, this is something that people pay me to give thumbs up to. So if you were like hoping to think, oh my God, does this thing work? I'm like, well, it works, but then it goes into a different layer, which allows vision and then connection through relationship. So there's a success paradigm that allows you to pull a mental space and put it through an emotional space. So we've got from the inspiration open top, it comes down conceptualized and then through the magnetism of expression. So RoyB The Middleman 876 is visionary, and it's a descending vibration, 8 and then 7 and then 6. So it's a really powerful space that says that it's going to grow on you. It's going to grow in love. It's going to grow in a space where you have a container. When I first took this Bobby F. Perryhart 876, it allowed me to do business in a spiritual nature. So your
Mm,
podcast allows to transcend into metaphysics or spiritual, and it's contained in an area where it's like, oh, it's easy for us to talk, like a couple of shaman buddies, no big deal, and just hanging out. And this is what the vibration of it. So you said,
yeah.
oh, 134 downloads in a week. I'm like,
Yeah, so
bro.
get this right. Get this right. You know how I was talking about my name earlier, where it links in with my birthday? Well, 876. Well, I was born on the 7th month and the 6th day. And the 8 is the abundance number. So
Well, 7 6 is alchemy.
that's just mental. Jeez.
Hey Roy, a 7 6 4. This is God code and alchemical and the vibration of safe and recipe. So you have something here that will transform the other, the reader, the listener, the experiencer of it, if they fulfill through what there's been offered or given to them. So
Mm,
you're doing a great work here, but it does really lean into your magicness, like you're a magical person. Magic is the 6, so
yeah.
to appreciate that energy is like frequency. And in the 7 it says outside of time. So
Oh,
so it's 6 of the 7th, right?
yeah.
Okay, and then what year?
72.
So 1972. Okay, so we got a traveler as an explorer, and you leave the recipe like you stitch up the open or the breaking open of the void to allow what energy needs to come. It's very shamanic, and there's also a space of spiritual wisdom, but you're contained between this cord. Like you start with it in July, and then you keep moving through it to create a foundation discernible through recipe and through form, podcast, brand, who you are as a person, you working with you one-on-one as a coach. You can really hold that space to unfold that for others. It pays to be friends. It's a valuable energy to be you in wisdom to me in my life. I was always curious about, well, why do I like this guy? And I can appreciate it because loyalty is big for you, and also awareness, non-judgment, and teaching, and through like helping me along. So it's nice to have you on a podcast. It's a perfect place for you, for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah. Well, interestingly enough, like my very first show, I did live shadow work.
Cool. Yeah.
And then my friend was talking about it, and which made me listen to it again. And when I was listening to it, it started bringing up all my own shadow, and I was like, "Whoa! I need to put a warning label on this show. This will invoke shadow energy within you while you're listening to it. Do not listen to it while you're driving."
Right.
And it's just like, and I definitely know episode 5, because we were talking about energy work. My Reiki energy activated during the show, so anybody that listens to episode 5 is going to get basically a Reiki session.
Sure.
Which is incredible, yeah. So and I feel that's going to be for each show, whatever the show's about. You're gonna soak in that energy of it. So this one, you're gonna start seeing numbers and go and see Bobby if you want interpretation of it, because
or even, I mean, just to give you the quick little cheat sheet, if you're seeing ones, we're appreciative of an individuality or its inspiration of ambition or wellness. Sometimes you have to do the crazy thing or just do you. And it's important to find yourself. If it's a 2, go with a friend who have energy to complete the task or something in that space. Or 3 is joy. 4 would be in the work. 5 would be exploration to mystical spaces. 6 is a loving care. 7 would be a nature space. 8 would be a mental space. And 9 is a love space. So if you see these codes like 1111 or 222, I always would like to think, could it just, skeptically thinking, be you in the quantum sending yourself energy frequency, or you trying to find meaning inside of this form dimension where your subconscious is reflecting it back to you from some other being? It's okay to appreciate that, right? There's a recipe in that. So be cool.
And what was fascinating when you first started, as soon as you said, right, I'll quickly look at the numbers, there was a portal that opened up at your right hand knuckle.
Oh yeah.
It was as though you popped a cap open and this energy came through, so you can type the numbers through the keyboard.
Yeah, that was weird. I noticed that.
And it was like, whoa.
Holy heck.
Wow. What's this? What's this little portal thing popping out of his face? It's almost like a pointer. It's like
because I got consciousness going down there, because like
you've got, the little arrow pointers you get on Windows. It's like you've got a spiritual one of those in your finger. It's like a little spiritual pointer. Right, I'm going to point over to this number here, and I'm going to point to this number here, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to type it in the keyboard so you get exactly where. That's phenomenal.
Sometimes because I do this a lot, right? Where I'm like, okay, I have to listen to you, and I have to go away while I quickly just put this thing in there. So it's like a direct channel to get out so that I can do this thing. And like I got a bunch of tools, right? So super cool. You called me on that. That's awesome, man. I never a dull moment with you, Roy.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, well, every time we get talking, the universe just jumps in and plays and
yes,
yeah,
surfing the chaos, surfing the mystical.
So through your natural journey as well. So I have a thing, the Om symbol.
Yep.
Which looks like the letter 3, and I actually often get people. So people who's listening to this, watching this, it will work if you do it. Draw the Om symbol on both your wrists and both your ankles, and it'll break your slave life. Because if you actually look at the Om symbol, the 3, it looks like a broken clasp.
Yep.
So it's a quick way to break your slave life, but you got to leave it on for 24 hours.
I'm doing it.
Doesn't matter if it naturally washes off, but through your journey, you've naturally done that, because when you was doing that a minute ago, one of your bracelets isn't complete,
right?
Which is the one on probably your left hand. So you showed that you've already pretty much broken that.
Cool.
So that's pretty cool.
The other one is one that I made, but it's actually a small little necklace for my son.
Oh,
and I have to loop it up, so I kind of carry a piece of my son's energy to charge him up, and then in a few years when he's ready for it, he'll be able to have one that's been like present to the vibration that unfolds through me. So I'm liking to charge his crystals up with Daddy's energy.
Oh, that's epic. That's epic. What was I going to say?
I'm
Do you
gonna
work?
do the shackle breaking. I got such a badass slavery program stuff. It's
Yeah,
the time now, guys.
yeah. It's all about breaking that as well, because
Totally.
part of this paradigm at the moment is everyone's starting to work for themselves, which is
Right.
breaking that. Because I read a stat this morning, there's still 40% of the population on Earth are still technically in modern day slavery
Hmm.
because they're working for the man and they're not doing what they want. They're not doing what they love. Highly recommend find a way to start doing what you love. Yeah, take your time over the transition between working for the man and working for yourself, but you do it. Do it.
It's tough, man. People are scared to become their own superhero. I mean, it's nice to have people like you in your show and just you in their lives as a guide along the individuality of your own spiritual reclamation. So valuable. I mean, I
Mm.
met the woman of my life after having a session with you.
And
Like
it was
this is
literally the day after.
yeah, it was literally the day I like sequential. It was like
Yeah,
I had yours and then I had her as an experience. And it was just such a profound thing. The energy was different and everything just slid in. And so I'm blessed that you were there. It was catalytic. And
yeah,
even catalyst is a vibrational energy that appears in your birthday at a very mastery position. So in case anyone pays attention to this, I mean, when I first met him, I paid attention to this. If you're the type of person who's like, I need to work with Roy, you have to take this for advantage that this is or for what I'm saying, that I would recognize this as a mastery, that he's a shaman and he's a psychic and a medium. That's the number two is energy of abundance through an energetic space of the cloud. So you get a chance to walk through the dimensions and then bring it back together through connection of relationship like you're a teacher.
yeah.
So that's kind of the mix in the bag. It says you're mystical until it gets real and you get to eat together and then you become a real person and then it links in. So cannot wait to actually have a meal together with you, man.
Yeah, well, I wish I could have got across to your wedding. That's now. I
We're
think
gonna
I've
get
only,
married again. It's all
yeah,
good.
I
Sally and
think
I
I've
have
got
a
about three
relationship.
regrets in my life, and I think
This is the
I
third.
can I can count
Yes.
not coming to your wedding as a fourth.
Dang it.
Because you only ever regret the things you don't do, not the things you do. So
Don't worry, we're getting married again. So
yeah,
we're gonna do it. We got a wedding we're gonna do in Paris. We're gonna do one in the Philippines. So we definitely do an Australian version. But Sally and I definitely want to recommit to each other a few times.
oh,
So
that'd be epic. That'd be epic. Yeah, well, I'll definitely be there for one of them. Um, do you work with Fibonacci sequence?
I don't yet, but I recognize it as the divine level sequence of math. I'd like to think that we're in a computer game right now, or like the whole idea of what it means to have these algorithms. It's like frequency. We are more math than we are anything else.
Mm,
So that Fibonacci frequency, it's like one spectrum. And then there's another spectrum that allows for a different expression of energy that doesn't follow Fibonacci. They say that the Fibonacci curve is designed to take us away from our natural power. And so we have things like a 31, 30-day calendar, 12-month system, as opposed to having a natural 9 or natural 13 cycle. There's other math out there available for us, but I haven't studied it yet. So it is on the forefront of my mind, but
yeah,
I got so many things to take care of. But I am starting to get skeptical about what I'm seeing.
yeah. So the Fibonacci sequence is called the golden spiral,
Yep.
which then, because we're in the golden octave, so it's going to really link you into that. And
Yep.
I have seen a couple of other people that do this, but in general, nobody has a zero at the start. The Fibonacci sequence should start at 0, but most people start it at 1.
Yeah, I've noticed a lot about that too. Where's the zero? Like, where's the source point or the entry point? And even in numerology as well, they hid the nine, and
Mm.
nine represents the zero.
Yeah,
Like, it's so crazy to see this inside of my work. I'm like, what? And when you add the numbers together, nine is invisible. It doesn't
mm.
actually exist. And if you can prove it, you can see it. If it exists. But if it doesn't, you'll be like, wait, this is going to get the experience of something else attached to it. It's like everything and nothing at the same time. Very interesting math, very interesting weird stuff. I'm very curious about what you may have found because yeah, I want to study the spiritual side of math.
Yeah,
Every time I see it, I get skeptical, and then I start wondering. I'm like, who's pulling something over our head, and what's this math we've been given, and why are we not inside of this divine golden arc, this
yeah.
space, golden mean?
So I can give you some insight on that. So I got that zero about the Fibonacci sequence, 2017, I believe, around that. Funnily enough, the round time we connected. So zero so there's a few. Slow down. So I'm saying slow down because they're dropping all the information and it's just coming in really fast. It's like whoa! I can't talk that quick. So the zero encompasses the whole. So they talk about everything exists in the universe already. So you're not really manifesting anything. You're just requesting something that's already there. So that's that part of the zero because it represents the whole. It's also represents like the Big Bang where there was nothing and then there was something. So in regards to the Fibonacci sequence, there was nothing, and that's when the zero represents nothing, and then there was something, which is the one. And it still fits in with the Fibonacci sequence because you always add the last two digits. So 0 and 1, you get 1. And then you get 1 and 1, and then 2, and so forth. So the 0 represents the all and the nothing, which is why 9 doesn't exist, because 9 represents that, the all and the nothing. But 0 represents that. So it's like, well, 0 and 9, are they the same thing? So therefore, do we only truly have 8 numbers? And the 5D energy is the golden octave, which is the 8 again. And the golden spiral is the Fibonacci sequence. I mean, I also have this theory that to manifest something, the pure manifesting number, there's a pure number on the Fibonacci sequence that's when things manifest into physical. But any emotional blocks you've got also represent a number. So for you to manifest it, let's say you're trying to manifest $1,000, but you got blocks around money. So without bringing up the Fibonacci sequence, so I can get the exact numbers. So let's say your emotional block around money is around the 300 number on the Fibonacci sequence, and the actual manifestation point on Fibonacci sequence is around the 700 number. Well, you'd actually need to get around the 1,000 number to manifest it.
Right.
But I also feel that number, you've got to push through it, which means you're always pushing that number on. So you might manifest little bits, but to truly become a pure manifestor, you've actually got to get that block out of the way, which then drops that number to around the actual pure number of around 400 or 500. Because there's no blocks in the way, you'll only ever have to get to that energetic amount before it manifests physically.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, you think about the shape, and the Fibonacci is like the 6 and the 9. It's like a spiral.
Yeah.
And then you think about creating success and currency, and these are energies of 8, where they make you want to go back again and then make this different move. Like when you're growing a plant and you splice it to make it bloom or blossom a lot, or you keep it vining, you're kind of like manipulating the source energy. So inside of our natural math, we don't need the value of, oh, I need to create more, and then we push us down this material container. We can appreciate the vining and the pollinating, as opposed to just the blooming and the blossoming. It feels like creating money or creating wealth or trying to be successfully safe. It almost feels like we've spliced ourselves to a genetically modified connection, synthesized from our nature, and finding our natural math or a natural vibration of frequency. I'm like, oh, it's easy. You have to counterbalance the vibration you're on and then add it to it's basic math. It's so crazy to look at law of attraction now, because it's so simple when you put it into reality like that.
And what's fascinating as well, because you spoke about the 6 and the 9. Well, Tesla said to know the secrets of the universe, you've got to work with the numbers 3, 6, and 9. Well, you mentioned the 6 and the 9. And before we started talking about this, I mentioned the 3, which is the breaking of the chains.
Right.
So that, you break away from the construct of the logical mind. That'll put you in the 6 and the 9, the forever up or down. If you're going within, or you're going into spirit, or you're going into shadow. And basically you're going into light, or you're going into shadow. And shadow will be 6 and light will be 9, and 3 will be the breaking of the chain.
Yeah, it's a tough paradigm, because you have this spiral 3, 6, 9, and even the 3 is freedom and warrior. So you have something to break away from inside of the 3, but it's still like a bubbly shape, right? The 6 spirals out, the 9 spirals out, 7 knocks, 8 knocks, 5 knocks, 4 knocks, 2 knocks. Every one of these numbers have this like shift in the energy that take you through a specific era, except for 3, 6, and 9, which allows like an unfolding of just being. The 6 and the 9 is very, very vortexy. And even we look at wealth and magnet, it's a 6, 9, 6 energy. Wealth is a 6 energy. Money is a 9 energy. Love is a 9 energy. So it's about caring and giving in 9, and then being there for it in this material in the 6. So for entrepreneurs, it's crazy because the answer is decoded. For parents, it's instant because you get to know your children. In your spirit, it's fascinating because we get to look at all these synchronicities and wonder, how many of them do we see? But this big thing that you're doing right now is a square versus the circle. It's such a crazy thing that we're a spirally species, and they've got us penned up and in this like square like existence. It says no, you got to work with the calendar and go to work and get this shit done. And instead of us feeling like, no, I don't want to do that, I want to be free, I don't want to be a slave. And I've been battling this since I met numerology. 2, 4, 6, and 8, and then 1, 3, 5, 7, and 9. And art is in one space, sex is in one space, joy and pleasure, nature, love, those are all odd numbers. And then work and wealth and success, and those are the even numbers. It's like interesting how that all works.
Masculine and feminine playing out.
Well, yeah, exactly. And then 6 is both. It's in the wealth, it's in the container, but it's of the love. So it's like, come on, let's be diplomatic and let's have both. So it's just so peculiar to appreciate how that thing sort of unfolds in the way we understand ourselves. I have fun reading people's numerology.
Yeah. And while you was talking about that, Spirit reminded me that what happened with when you gave me the O and it was on the outside, what happened was it got integrated into the O in my name. So I've still got it, but it's in the O in the Roy. And they actually reminded me of that. They said it never went. You just integrated it into the actual O. And I was like, oh, I completely forgot I did that. See, so it's still there. It's always there. It's just there, banging the name now. It's not on the. It's not. It's So I integrated it, and it became just as part of the ROY.
Well, I mean, right now it's RoyB The Middle Man.
Yeah. So what it did is it overlapped the current O. It overlapped the current O.
Yeah.
So it'll always be there, man. It'll always be there.
I got my thumbs up on RoyB The Middle Man. That thing looks really good.
Excellent. Yeah, and the thing is, because I was going, hopefully it doesn't come up with some kind of, it needs a tweak or stuff like that, because I've already changed all my social media. It's just a thing now.
Even RoyB on its own, RoyB. So if that's your shift, you can use that and just have your last name be the middleman and your first name is RoyB. But I mean, really, it does work in pieces and part of the whole thing. So I know there's a tension because obviously there's like, well, what's the word going to say? What's the language mean? But you landed on it. So the RoyB The Middleman, 2 thumbs up, and then RoyB, 2 thumbs up on its own. You don't use a middleman, but you introduce yourself as RoyB. That's
always sort of RoyB The Middleman. Yeah, that's the podcast.
That's it. That's the one.
Nice. I love that. And what I liked about when you said it about 876, the way I saw it as well is like I'm bringing spirit into the physical realm.
Yep.
That's what I'm bringing down to, because I've got this ability to just, what I feel energetically, I can turn into English.
Right.
And translate it into layman's terms English.
You're like a big funnel. Like you collect the water and then you'll transfer it into something usable that comes out of the other end. So it is a transformation aspect, but yeah, that's important. 8 and then 7 and then 6. So we're going from the mental awareness into the magnetic feeling of emotion. And this is where change happens. So everybody's got a great idea. There's 1,000 of them, but when you feel it, that's your transformation. And then people will touch you at a family party and be like, you got to go see Roy. You got to go see this guy. And there's that space in there. And that's how my marketing works too, right? People talk about me. And this is, I believe, the sweet spot. So we're safe right now because, it's scary to think that this is crazy work.
Well, interestingly enough, like the spiritual realm, the psychic realm, it's still one of the most powerful mediums. It's still word of mouth.
Right.
It's still one of the most powerful ways to get clients. And it's like, even with all this advent of social media, it's still word of mouth. It's
your fractal. You're growing through your own generation of awareness and audience. I mean, the people deserve it. And I say, get in while you can. The rate you're going, the way you're going, you may be too big to remember me. Bobby, who's Bobby?
No. Look, however many shows I'll do, you'll always be cropping in and out on them. And I'll definitely get Sally on, because that human design stuff, I know about it, but I know nothing about it. So that'll be a great one to get on the show.
She needs psychics in her life. She's very interested in that. And with her power, what we've uncovered, you will not be regret. It'll be so cool for you to experience. Just her as a person is unfolded through it. And for us spiritual types, having someone with mental clarity, it's like having someone with an X-ray vision in a world of uncertainty. And we
Yeah.
look strange having psychic ability. She has ultraviolet ability to see through clarity, and it's been so phenomenal to watch her unfold. She's
Yeah.
like the Iron Man. We're like the ones bit, or like you're Doctor Strange, so you're mystical. I got bit somehow.
Yeah. Yeah, that's it. Yeah. Well, interesting. Another one of our friends, Craig, and I'm definitely sure he'll watch the show, Craig Hoy.
Yeah.
Well, I activated his X-ray vision many years ago. And I was saying,
Oh
like, you've just got
man.
this ability to just see things that others can't. And it's,
Yeah, he's worked with me as well too. I
yeah.
swear by the guy. Absolutely was able to do work with him too. And yeah, I'm blessed that you got a chance to, we do have a superhero coalition going on, man.
Yeah. Yeah. We're
It's
like
pretty good.
yeah, we're like the Avengers.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting. We're gonna be like our own thing, but Avengers is fun. But I mean, any superhero group, you think, we all have our own space to unfold into. And I dream of the time where we have like a summit, or these men helping society or helping the collective, doing our work the way it's supposed to, even if it's just intimate, and it's just a small group of people. I'm telling you, it's on my bucket list to have the men's event where you, Craig, I'm speaking in there, and it's just a list of people that are going to be in that space.
Well, I'll tell you
That
something, we'll
live
have
up
to
that
start
dream.
talking about it and get it organized somehow. Because the
You
divine
know,
masculine is, it's the divine masculine is starting to build up, as is the divine feminine. We're coming into our sovereign power, which is fantastic because we're letting go of all this ego, us versus them bullshit. And we're starting to collaborate and all these opportunities to collaborate. So for those that are watching and listening, if it's an opportunity to collaborate with somebody, no matter who it is, take it, see where it goes. See where it goes. So yeah, well, I'll be in touch about that then, and we'll get Craig, me, you, and Craig in a chat and see what we can come up with,
that would be so awesome, guys.
and whoever else we can rope into that.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
So
It's gonna
another
sound
thing
really
that
cool.
my team have been hassling me. You better start getting ready to move next year because it'll be early in the year when that plant will grow.
Yeah,
Because
I'm working on it quickly.
they keep drawing my eyes to your door. It's always your door. It's always your door, and it's like they're saying you're going to be walking out of that door soon.
Mhm.
So it means you're going to be moving soon.
Right. Well, we keep talking about it,
Yeah,
and now
January.
because Sally's very much into feng shui, so to understand where the places in her house are supposed to be, understanding how inappropriate this environment is for our well-being, it's important for us to appreciate. So you walk into our house, and I haven't met someone who's walked into our house who hasn't commented on the chi. I'm like, what do you? How are people gonna talk about the energy in my house? And some people actually call it chi, and some people call it the energy of the house. I'm like, yeah, well, we do feng shui, and it's very apparent that we accentuate colors and gems and the right spaces, and
Yeah.
it does work. But we need to like build a fortress.
Because what I'm being shown, you're like this big palm tree in a bucket, and you've now outgrown the bucket. So
Yeah,
now it's time to actually be planted in the land.
you hear that? Well, of course, the tree hears all.
Yeah.
This is
So
another one gift from Sally. It was so sad we lost half of it on the other side, but it's still growing. It's beautiful, and she'll regrow again. It's just a
yeah.
plant. So she gives us her energy. But it was a tough time. We had two spines, and then one of them stopped taking water, and I felt I was crying because I was just like, this can't happen. I was neglecting my office, and this one tree was like, don't worry, we know this. We're gonna do this, and we're gonna take care of this. And so it's been transformative. But you be careful what you wish for, because when it comes and you haven't wished for it properly, you may end up wasting the benefit, the resource, the success, and the wealth of all of that stuff. Like, come on, guys, like, stop looking at the grass greener on the other side. Grow your own green inside of you.
Yeah. Well, I'm a wizard of the woods, so I'll have a word with the tree.
Yeah.
At dream time, I'll have a word with the tree saying, right, January, grow up.
Oh my gosh. Yeah,
Hit the
you guys are
ceiling.
all taking my tree. Yeah, it got taller than me. Like, I can't even reach the top of the tree now. Before, when I bought it, it was my height. And now the thing is like, whoa, I can't reach you. And then she's like, I know, I'm getting high up in there.
Yeah.
It's definitely getting to the tall end of it. But it's been faithful to us. I used to tie it up and then make it even taller. And then I had to stop doing that. And then it still is growing on its own now. So
Well, that's
my
it.
dream is to have it in the courtyard of our house and have this open like concept thing in a really powerful level of the world. But we'll see what
Awesome.
happens. Yeah.
Well, let Sally know. I'll be in touch about a future podcast episode.
Absolutely. Get that thing
Um,
filmed. You're gonna be so glad. Your head's gonna spin. She's a different woman now. She's
yeah,
more
yeah,
herself.
because I did have a session with her. Well, she had a session with me a while back,
Yep.
and I think I vaguely remember saying that she'll have her own version. So that did come to pass.
Yeah, man. It's been so transformative. I'm so proud. I'm my biggest cheerleader right now. Like it's
Mm.
just so cool. She's helped me so much. And her brand has taken it off into a really beautiful direction. She's mastered this technology. So it's like watching me with the numbers. And you'll have an epic conversation for sure.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Well, I feel that's where we'll end the show today.
Hey,
Because I know
thanks for being here
it's
with me
probably
on the
I dread to think what time it is in Canada at the moment.
well, it's 11/11/2022. So I know we're dating ourselves when this podcast comes out, but it's a spiritual relevance for me to be here with you at this time.
Yeah,
You were there for me at the very beginning of it all, right? I just took off my numerology brand and it's been years now. And the fact that you're looking this much younger, I just feel like this is an amazing omen, amazing times ahead of us. And so I thank you for being a spiritual conclusion to a very, very powerful round inside of my life this year. You always come in at the right time, man. It's only been, you're right, half a dozen times we've connected that
yeah,
I would hop on a plane to save your life if I had to.
yeah. And look, same. There's just something magical between us, and there always has been. And even though, like I say, we don't connect on a daily basis, every time you pop up on Facebook, I'm always, if you got it's your anniversary with Sally, and I always, make a mental note going, yeah, that's what I want to aspire to, that love of a relationship. And it's always good to see when you're having fun with your kids and the numerology stuff, and just see your life grow. It's beautiful, always beautiful to see, and it always warms my heart.
Thanks, man.
Yeah. So yeah, so uh thanks for listening and watching, everyone. And there will be another episode. So the next episode coming up will be with my son. So that's actually quite a fun one. It's already been filmed. That's quite a fun one. And it's father son. So it's going to involve ghost games and graphic design.
That's cool. I can't wait to watch that one.
That'll be a fun one. So yeah, it'll be great. So thanks very much for listening, and we'll see you again next time.